Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman, and today this is a BPD short. Today I want to talk to you about when it's okay to block someone or go no contact. Let's get going. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, subscribe. I offer on this channel positive, solution-based approaches to recovery for those of us living or recovering from BPD, CPTSD, or those who just find themselves to be highly sensitive or have trouble regulating their emotions. There's also a playlist for family and friends, so check that out. It's called BPD Tools Just for You. When you have BPD, oftentimes the thing I think most of us have trouble with is this extreme thinking, or what they call the black and white. You know, if I'm mad at you, I've scorched the earth and I never want to talk to you again. You've not invited me to a party, or I feel like you have dissed me, so I'm gonna block you and never talk to you again. You know, I don't like the way somebody talked to me at work, so I'm gonna look for another job, right? These are examples of extreme ways of thinking. You want to look for, in your relationships, patterns. Why patterns? Because patterns establish a routine, a pattern, for lack of a better word, of behaviors of who a person is, right? Your behaviors become your actions become your reputation and your personality. And so sometimes people just have an off day, right? Maybe your friend just accidentally forgot to invite you to the party, or maybe somebody didn't say hello to you at work because they're just really having personal troubles at home and they're shutting themselves in to just do, professional work. But if you see a behavior of patterns where someone is constantly ignoring you or consistently not inviting you to a party, and I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 times, right? More times than not, then you get a better sense of who that person is. And this is, hard for us with BPD because it's hard for us to let things play out, right? Because we have to sit steady in the boat, wait for things to play out. We have to see, things that may be ambiguous, that aren't clear to us, and that's really difficult. And because we grew up in a chaotic environment, we seek the answer right now. It's not because we're bratty. It's not because we need instant gratification. It's because we need to feel settled. We need to feel settled. And we didn't feel settled for a long time in our childhood. If you grew up in a chaotic, abusive, traumatic environment, you didn't have settle. You didn't have stable, right? And so now you really seek that. And I think that seeking these extremes and like coming to a decision right away so that you don't have to deal with the anxiety of the ambiguousness of life leads into that black and white thinking. And I just did a video about black and white thinking, so the origins of black and white thinking, so I encourage you to check that out. But black and white thinking, or seeing things in extremes, or splitting thinking, that is a characteristic of the DSM of BPD. So this extreme thinking or black and white thinking can really get us into trouble, right? We quit that job when we didn't have all the facts. We make a report to the police about something we think we saw, but we had it all wrong. We cut off a friendship, or we say something we don't mean because we've interpreted a slight or an argument or something that we thought was hurtful to us, right? So in these moments you may find yourself wanting to lash out, say things that you don't mean, break something, self-harm, or block someone. And there's a few reasons why blocking people does and does not work. First of all, if you are blocking people without having a very good sense of who they are, or if you're blocking people just because you don't like something they said one day, that may not really affect them, but you're trying to build mastery within yourself. You're trying to build stability within yourself. That's the key to recovering from BPD. And so you may find a greater sense of mastery and self-control and an idea that you can handle everything and anything if you don't block people right away. You know, why do we set out to block someone? Because we want that to get away from us as fast as possible. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want it to touch us. We don't want it to be in our minds. So it doesn't lead to a sense of mastery if you are always, sit down please, thank you, sorry. It doesn't lead to a sense of mastery if you are always blocking people, right? Because you're still giving into that anxiety, you're still giving into that splitting thinking, you're giving into that impulsivity, and those are all things that you want to break away from. However, because there are no black and whites, right? So first you learn, you know, that there are no black and whites. There is grays of life, shades of gray, that, you know, black and white thinking is not the way to go. But sometimes you also have to consider this. If it's true that nothing is black and white and that things are gray, then you also have to accept the idea that there will be times when something is very concrete, right? That something does need to get away from you because it's abusive. You know, a toxic relationship, an abusive partner, a toxic work environment. How many of us have been in that situation? You know, perhaps it's a sister or a family member that's a drug user and they're constantly trying to take your money or steal or make you feel guilty, right? So you will go from this, okay, I shouldn't act on my impulse, I shouldn't be blocking people, to, okay, I need to block this person because of A, B, or C. And so there are going to be times when it's okay to block people. And I'm going to walk you through an example that happened to me. And I'm going to ask you to keep these things in mind. It is okay to block someone when you've observed the following. The first thing being, they've established a pattern of behavior that's either hurtful, negative, or something that doesn't make you feel right. If every time you get a text from this person, or you see this person, or you have an interaction with this person and your stomach goes tight, you know, you feel anxious, your breathing gets heavy, that's a really good sign that that person doesn't belong in your life, because they're creating angst for you, okay? If you find that, you know, they're doing all of the initiating and talking and you don't ever reach out to them because, you know, there's just something off about the relationship, that's another good sign that something's off. So you're looking for a pattern of behaviors or feelings, you know, this is where mindfulness comes in. Like, what's my stomach telling me? Like, I know I feel anxious or upset about something in my stomach. That's where I hold it. My stomach gets tense. It's like this sense of dread that overcomes me. So you've realized this, right? You've seen a pattern of behavior. Is it okay in that situation then to block someone? Absolutely. Absolutely. What are the rules for blocking someone? Nothing. There are no rules. You don't have to give them an explanation. You don't have to tell them you're going no contact. I mean, unless, of course, you know, we're talking about a job situation and you've worked for someone and you're going to need them as a reference at some point, or they're, you know, your next employer is going to call that employer to establish some kind of history of employment, you know, then you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and blow that, you know. So sending an email like, okay, like, this is my 2-week notice, I'm leaving, or my 1-day notice, whatever. States do not require you, most states do not require you to give any notice. Most states are right to work, okay, just as an example. But you communicate that, right? You tell them, okay, I'm not going to be at this job anymore, goodbye. Do you have to tell an abusive spouse? Nope. You can just go. Anyone that's beating you, berating you, physically hurting you, emotionally damaging you, playing psychological games, you can just piece right out of that. Now I want to tell you about a situation that I have dealt with where I recently blocked someone. You will know that you have made the right decision when you feel settled with it, right? There have obviously been times where I've blocked people and I've been like, and then I've unblocked them and I'm like, okay, well, I really shouldn't have done that, you know? But there are times when you're gonna know you've made a right decision because you feel settled with it, you know? It may not be an easy decision to make. It may take you a while to come up with that decision, but eventually you feel settled with that. You feel settled in your stomach. You feel like, okay, that was the right thing to do. You may even feel a sense of relief. If you feel a sense of relief, then that's definitely the right choice that you've made. Back in the summer, so we're talking 4 months ago now, I had a request for a meet and greet for 2 very large dogs. So we're talking over 130 pounds, 2 dogs. And I'd never met them before. And I came to the house and the wife was immediately berating, nasty to the husband, sarcastic, made jokes at his expense, like, you know, oh, just leave the room. Don't even speak. You know, those are literally things that she said. And keep in mind, if that's what somebody's doing in front of you that's never met you, it's only going to get worse behind closed doors, and probably, and most likely, that kind of behavior is going to seep onto you because that's just the kind of person they are. That's how they deal with things. I met with them for about 2 hours, and she continued to be extremely inappropriate, bossy, would cut me off, would try to hijack the conversation into the direction she wanted it to go. She was nasty to the husband. And on top of that, the dogs got in 2 very serious fights where one of the dogs jumped on top of the other dog, bit his neck open, had to go to the emergency room. The dog would not stop with an air horn. The dog would not stop with citronella being sprayed in his face. Nothing would work. So I don't know if you've ever seen a dog fight. It is very upsetting and scary and unpredictable. And on top of that, I'm in an enclosed basement-like space with essentially 4 grown adults, you know, the husband and the wife, and then these 2 huge dogs. So this happens and I'm really shaken, and they're looking for me to start coming to work for them because they're planning these like very long trips out on a vacation out of the country altogether. So because of this fight, the dog had some neck issues and it was being treated, and they didn't need me that summer. She said, okay, we'll talk to a behaviorist. We're going to get the dog neutered. We're going to see if these things help. Fine. Okay. Even if at that point the dogs hadn't been fighting, which was a huge turnoff for me, and that's a safety issue, I didn't obviously feel comfortable with her. Okay. Fast forward a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, she reaches out again. Hey, are you game to try this again? You know, we talked to a behaviorist. We had him neutered. You know, we're not having any of these problems anymore. And she said something like, oh, one of the dogs, the one that was starting the fights, he's growled a few times, but like, you know, it hasn't gone anywhere. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see for myself. So she continued to like not take my direction. It turns out she never actually worked with the therapist. The behaviorist rather, she had like one Zoom phone consultation and that was it. And during, you know, she was also giving me clues that the environment still wasn't safe. Like, don't sit on the floor with them when you come over. Don't have any food on you. And I'm like, okay, these are not normal things. You should be able to sit on the floor and your dogs not fight each other to the death. That's what we call abnormal. Okay, so as I'm there and I'm on my way over, I'm like, okay, I'm on my way over. I said, you know, I won't be bringing in any food or treats with me. And she's like, she wrote back to me, good girl, winky face. And then she wrote, and don't have any peanut butter smeared anywhere. I almost literally turned the car around and came back to my house. I was already en route there, so I didn't. Excuse me. But a completely inappropriate, disgusting thing. You know, good girl is a very pat on the head or something that you would say to your dog or a child. And then this idea that I would be smearing peanut butter on my vagina to let the dog lick off. She thought that was I've met this woman one time and maybe talked to her on the phone 2 or 3 times. She came in, she got right into, she didn't say thank you to me. I don't think I've ever heard a thank you out of this woman, you know. She immediately started berating the husband. She was yelling at him again. You know, he just like looked like this downtrodden. I mean, the guy is really nice. He's not the problem. But in this course of, you know, this, first of all, she paid for an hour and I kept saying, I have to go, the hour's up. She kept talking. I was there an hour and a half. I should have charged her another $20. I didn't, because in my head, after hearing her talk, and, you know, she would say things to me like, wasn't that clear enough? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking to right now. And the husband would be like, no, it wasn't clear. So in all of this, guess what? The dogs had 2 more fights. Now, they didn't escalate to the degree where the dog had to go to the ER again. But again, have you ever tried to break up 2 grown men fighting, 150, 160 pounds? Because that's what this is. This is 2 150-pound creatures with teeth that were fighting each other. And I was uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable with her. And so on my way home, I was relieved. So here's the clue, right? I was relieved that I was not going to be in that situation, and that I was like, I didn't actually care that I went over in time, because in my head I knew I'm never coming back to these people. I'm not going to see these people again. And then when I got home, I made this decision. Okay, I definitely am not comfortable with her. I'm not comfortable with the dogs. I'm not comfortable being left with them for 2 weeks. And so now I want to get myself out of this situation as professionally as possible, right? Because this is still my business on the line. People can still go on the internet and write a shitty review or you know, say something defamatory. So last night I blocked her. I thought, okay, he's the one who pays me anyway. I have not had a problem with him. I blocked her last night. And this morning, I refunded the guy's money because they prepaid me for a couple of things. I refunded his money. I said, listen, I've had some time to think about this overnight. I'm not comfortable. The dogs got into dust-ups last night. I'm going to refund your money. I sent a screenshot of the refunding of the money. And I left it at that. And then I blocked him because I don't want to be bothered anymore. I don't want, like, we already know that she's explosive and abusive. And so my goal is to get out of there as emotionally unscathed, as quickly as possible, as professionally as possible. That's my goal. That's my goal. And in those situations, that's when it's okay to block someone. And the way to know, again, that it's okay to block someone is when you feel a sense of relief. You don't have that feeling of dread in your stomach anymore. And it's okay to bounce this off a few people. You know, I bounced this off of another person last night. She was like, yep, I would definitely get myself out of that situation. So I hope this has been helpful. This went a little bit longer than a BPD short, but I hope this has been helpful in trying to determine when it's okay to make that decision to cut someone out of your life and not have it be tied to an impulsive, extreme black and white thinking. My name's Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. You can always email me at womanbpd@gmail.com. And until I see you next time, please be effective. Bye-bye.